Australia should follow Donald Trump's moves to recognise only two sexes, male and female, and limit government promotion of gender transitions and efforts to include transgender people, prominent coalition MPs say. The US president used his first hours in office on Tuesday to issue a slew of executive orders, including rolling back moves to recognise diverse gender identity and sexual orientation. Among his first actions was the signing of an executive order titled Defending Women from Gender Ideology, Extremism and Restoring Biological Truth to the Federal Government, which instructs the removal of all radical gender ideology guidance, communication, policies, and forms. After a change put in place by the Biden administration, since 2022 US citizens have been allowed to select X as a gender-neutral marker on their passports, but Mr. Trump warned against trying to socially engineer race and gender into every aspect of public and private life. As of today, it will henceforth be the official policy of the United States government that there are only two genders, male and female, he said at the event attended by Foreign Minister Penny Wong and Australia's Ambassador Kevin Rudd. Applicants for Australian passports can choose male, female, or X, which represents non-binary, indeterminate, intersex, and unspecified people. National Senator Matt Canavan said Australia should follow Trump's lead on gender identification. I think the thrust is to protect young women in sports, and I think we should take a leaf out of that part of Trump's book as well, he told the Australian Financial Review. It is completely unfair and unsafe to make young biological women compete against biological males. It is absolutely ridiculous and defies all common sense. The only place it seems to make any sense is Canberra, where common sense goes to die. Everywhere else in the country can see this is ridiculous and really unsafe. Some coalition MPs want opposition leader Peter Dutton to take a more aggressive stance against diversity and inclusion measures, including on the participation of transgender women in sport. The issue has become a touchstone for some Conservatives, but backfired for former Prime Minister Scott Morrison during the 2022 election when he championed anti-trans activist Catherine Devers to run in the seat of Warringah against Teal MP Zali Steggall. In August last year, Mr Albanese was criticised for scrapping plans to include questions about sexuality in the next national census. The Prime Minister was forced into an embarrassing backflip after a push from Labor MPs to maintain the questions. The Australian Bureau of Statistics estimates there are about 182,000 Australians who are transgender or gender diverse. Coalition frontbencher and former Deputy Prime Minister Barnaby Joyce said Mr Trump's move on gender was correct. Based on the science that people are born with an XY chromosome or XX, and the whole point of democracy is the majority rule, he said. If that's what the majority want, then that's it. Mr Joyce said some Australians wanted a rethink on gender, but conceded the issue was not prominent in the mainstream debate, and that ahead of the federal election, due by May 17th, voters would make their choice on the cost of living. But people have strong views, probably not dissimilar to President Trump, he said. If you want to walk up and down the streets talking about that, you're probably not where people want to meet you, which is, how am I going to get my power bill down? Why am I sleeping in my car? Why can't I afford food? South Australian Liberal Senator Alex Antic welcomed Mr Trump's moves on so-called diversity, equity and inclusion measures. I have asked representatives of Australian government departments about why their DEI policies are necessary, but it still doesn't make sense to me, he said. The writing is on the wall for DEI. Longtime campaigner and spokesman for advocacy group Just.Equal Australia, Rodney Croom, warned against following Mr Trump. There is no evidence that Australia's gender-affirming laws and policies are a problem, and lots of evidence about their positive impact on transgender people and their families, he said. All transgender Australians want is to be able to get on with their lives peacefully and with dignity. Asked about the decisions, Prime Minister Anthony Albanese said he would avoid providing a running commentary on Mr Trump's moves. Greens leader Adam Bandt described the Republican as dangerous. He emboldens hate and will make the lives of women, people of colour and queer people harder. Eloise Brooke, the boss of AusPath, the country's professional association for the health of transgender people, said the decision was regressive. It will directly harm the lives of trans people and their families, and any attempt to do the same thing in Australia would be just as punishing and unnecessary and cruel.